President Trump's national security advisors proposing sending an additional 3,000 to 5,000 troops to Afghanistan. Because why would you want that war to end? They say the increase will speed up the process of training Afghan troops to fight the Taliban and help bring U.S. military involvement in that country to an end sooner. Yeah, the president is expected to get a final proposal sometime this week. Now, a growing number of senators are showing support for the move. Well, let me bring in Ben Collins, a retired Special Forces officer and Green Beret with 3 tours in Afghanistan. Ben, welcome to the big show. It's great to see you.
You too, Kennedy.
So here we go. More troops in Afghanistan to fight the Taliban. A, is that a good idea? And B, how do we know we can trust the people we're training?
So is it a good idea? Well, it's a necessary idea. Otherwise, we're just going to have more of the same. So, I'm going to tell you that, during the Bush administration, we were very military heavy with not much of a political effort behind it. During the Obama years, we reduced the military footprint and we tried everything on a diplomatic or a political solution that just made it more complicated. Yeah. You can't have one or the other. You got to have both. So it's necessary to put the pressure on the Taliban, but we also better have a political and a diplomatic solution ready to go as well.
All right, and the political solution, I'm guessing, isn't the national unity government that you have pointed out, 3 strong men from disparate ends being brought together by curious means.
Well, because it never ends that well, right? And that seems to be like U.S. national policy when it comes to picking the next leader, right? Who's the strongest guy in the room? Well, everybody's going to pay attention to him. The problem in it is Afghanistan is very fragmented on one sense by the different ethnicities. However, there is a move where people, I think, are so tired of the violence right now that they're moving away from kind of those ethnic, more towards issue-based. So I think we need to knit the fabric of the Afghan people together from the bottom, or not we, but the Afghan people need to knit themselves from the bottom and not impose this elite settlement where we pick the leaders for them, essentially.
There are so many vacuums and hellholes in the Middle East, from Libya to Yemen to Syria. What happens if Afghanistan totally falls apart? And in this array of so many bad countries, what separates it as being even more bad?
Well, so the reason that everybody's ever wanted to come to Afghanistan is where it sits. So, if Afghanistan collapses, if it falls, if that central government collapses, the Taliban is going to take over, and it's going to be the hardest core part of the Taliban. It's going to be that Haqqani network, like the ones that are most closely aligned with Al-Qaeda. And then you will truly have that terrorist safe haven again. But more importantly...
Okay, so let me ask you very quickly before you go on to the more importantly. If Haqqani and Al-Qaeda somehow collide, is that potentially worse than ISIS?
Well, I think ISIS would probably find a home there, to be honest. But now you're talking about, you've got that border region, along the east with Pakistan that is filled with these terror organizations. But if you look at where Afghanistan is on the map, its neighbors are Iran, it's the former Soviet, so you've got Russia, China, India, Pakistan. What do all those countries have in common? There are nuclear states.
Yeah, and they've also given stuff to North Korea. I think Pakistan is the new Turkey. I think they're horrible.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Look, I think Pakistan has been essentially getting a free pass for the last 10 years. And I think we need to be much stronger on Pakistan, because nothing will ever be solved. Certainly not the problem of the Taliban will be solved unless we get rid of those sanctuaries in Pakistan. And Pakistan has to do that. So enough is enough. I think we need to put all the aid that we have been given Pakistan up on a ledger and say, look, there's no more aid. And honestly, I think we need to consider making them a state sponsor of terrorism, because that's essentially what they're doing. I don't have a problem with that
at all. Why are we giving any aid in the first place? Okay, so last question. You're in charge. Do you bring the Taliban to the table, or is it just military decimation?
Well, you have to, I think, bring the Taliban to the table, because there's a part of that fabric that is the Taliban that will always be within the Afghan society. But of course you have to get them to the table. Now, just because you get them to a table, you might not be successful initially in the negotiations, but at least you've got that channel open. But it doesn't mean that you stop putting pressure on them security. You have to have a strategy the very way that the IRA was brought into the government. You've got to have a strategy for the bullets, and you have to have a strategy for the ballot box. Bullets in the ballot box, and unless you have both of those, we're going to watch conflict in Afghanistan go for the next 30 years again.